impact in the future to improve access issues for meetings such as this, but I'm delighted to be here. The disability community is already painfully aware that the destruction of the welfare state is the destruction of lives. Disabled people against cuts daily receive horror stories, like the suicide of a woman who had failed over 5 years to get rehoused and then was denied her social care. She left a note saying, "No human or animal should ever have to go through life as I did." We hear from disabled people all over Europe of the inhumanity that they are enduring. But what you're about to hear is not just about a group of people from whom some of you may feel very distant. You'll learn about the nightmare that we disabled people are currently inhabiting, the very bleak future we have if this government isn't stopped in its tracks, and potentially your bleak future too, because anybody can become disabled in the blink of an eye after all. Are you aware that already 30% of disabled people live below the poverty line, and 1 in 4 families with disabled children cannot afford heating, and sometimes parents go without food to keep the child going? Are you aware that disability hate crime is up a massive 14%, whilst convictions have fallen, and this is off the back of our being described as scroungers and frauds? Did you know that if you're under 65 and you're unfortunate enough to have a stroke tomorrow, the Department of Work and Pensions could be on your backs harassing you to go for fitness for work assessments within days of leaving hospital care, and despite you still needing massive personal care and daily physiotherapy? It happened to someone called Jan Morgan, who was a successful businesswoman, she has a PhD, but she's been told that despite the fact she falls over, despite the fact that she's got memory problems, despite the fact of paralysis, she's got to register for an NVQ2. You may have heard that the government is spending around 100 million on paying ATOS to strip disabled people of their benefits, and it seems to us that staff must be remunerated for every success they have in doing this. But did you know that about 50 million more of taxpayers' money is spent on vast numbers of appeals, of which around 40% have been successful? Are you aware that both Scottish and English GPs unanimously voted at their annual conferences for an immediate end to these work capability assessments, condemning them as being unfit for purpose and causing actual harm? Did you know that the government has admitted, in response to a Freedom of Information request, to over 1,000 deaths in 9 months of last year alone, following these assessments, or that there have been at least 23 suicides of disabled people because of the cuts to their benefits? And did you know that Paul Farmer, the CEO of Mind, pulled out an advisory panel because he was so horrified by what was happening to people with mental health problems? Perhaps you have an elderly or disabled relative, or you're disabled yourself, and you know that it's already much harder or frankly impossible for disabled people to get help from social services because councils have moved the eligibility goalposts for receipt of social care to save money. But directors of social care are being told they'll have to cut 890 million more from adult social care next year. Did you hear that disabled people are being left homeless when their benefits are stopped suddenly and they can no longer pay the rent? Or that others are left stranded when their cars are taken away overnight? Are you aware that our Paralympians are probably going to be stripped of their benefits after they've performed for us, because the government is replacing DLA with something called PIP, gives me the PIP, which will go to a tiny minority of people? I've been asked to finish. I want to say that I believe that this and much more amounts to crimes against humanity. It brings us very disturbing and terrifying echoes from the beginnings of the Holocaust. So if I could just finish by saying, please use all the resources at your disposal to ensure that this message goes out to the widest possible audience. Lobby Maria Miller, so-called Minister for Disabled People. We say she's the Minister against Disabled People. Everyone in the DWP, sign petitions. Whatever you decide to do, do something. Thank you very much.